So something strange is happening right now with Nintendo, and it's taken people a couple of days to notice, myself included here, and it has to do with re-downloads of digital games you had purchased previously, maybe for a shop that's technically not accessible anymore. That being the Wii. And I wanted to talk about that here today because now that people are really noticing, they're starting to ask questions around the Wii U and 3DS store closures. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So first off, let's head over here to the original source of this, or at least that I had seen. That was Oatmeal Dome. This was on the 16th of March. So days ago this was mentioned. The Wii System Update servers and the Wii Shop channel, you should still be able to access it to re-download purchases, have been down for a while today. I wonder if Nintendo hasn't noticed yet. Their status page still lists everything as operational. So it's correct in the sense that you can access the Wii Shop if you already have games purchased on that specific console. So for your Wii, if you had purchased Mario 64 through the Virtual Console, like 10 years ago or something, you can still sign in with that specific Wii and re-download the game. If you don't have that Wii anymore and you go to a new one, you won't be able to. It was like Nintendo's even more archaic account system that was basically tied to each individual system. At least now we have a Nintendo account system that is tied to just that, an account, not a system, but that's where we were back in the late 2000s with Nintendo. And here we are now where it appears that the servers themselves that you would access with your system aren't available now. Obviously, people are wondering, wait a minute, did Nintendo just like stealth pull the plug on re-downloads and support for purchases on the Wii? And it's certainly possible, but it's also possible that an intern tripped over a cable or something and they just need to get it fixed, because even they don't really notice it since it's the Wii. I mean, it's taken how many days for people to actually realize that you can't re-download purchases. So either one is possible right now. But I will say this, you're going to want to pay attention to what's happening here and if there is an update in this current situation, because now different websites and the media are starting to pick up on this story, which means you would expect awareness to start to go up and maybe Nintendo looks to fix it. The first website that appears to report on it was Nintendo Everything, where they said Wii Shop channel has been down for days. And then the other one so far has been Go Nintendo, saying Wii Shop channel currently inaccessible. Interestingly enough, they mentioned that they had gone back and re-downloaded a game just like weeks ago, and now they're unable to. They say you'll either get a blank screen or an error message. And then it says the channel seems to have been experiencing issues for the last few days, dating back to when Oatmeal Dome noticed it. So one thing here is if you have a Wii, because I don't actually have a Wii anymore that has like digital purchases that I've made prior. If you have one, try it out just to see, because that's the biggest thing now is everyone's going to their Wii system currently to see if they can re-download any of these previous purchases. However, the situation as it stands right now, where you cannot download any of these Wii purchases, got me thinking about a few things. One, it got me thinking about this Nintendo Life article where apparently they had talked to a former Nintendo of America employee who seemed to have a lot of knowledge around the eShop, the closures, their overall network infrastructure and everything. And I mean, I questioned it somewhat because it's like, wow, they seem to know a lot about all of this, but Nintendo Life seemed pretty confident that it's a good source. So I have to assume they vetted them, and there are ways you can do that, like pay stubs with like the company's name on it, those kind of things, right? But this person in this article seems pretty confident that Nintendo has been looking to break away from this old account system they've had for a long time. They say since 2014, basically since they knew that the Wii U was basically a failure for them, that they were going to have to break away and move to this new Nintendo account system they have now that, yes, is much better. I mean, I just talked about how it's tied to a system for the Wii. This much better, obviously, being tied to an account that they do rewards and all of these different things with. They're starting to build up like little reward things for appearances and icons, and I'm sure they'll continue to build, and it should transcend pieces of hardware, which is the most important part. But they'd want to break away from the older system, and they mention here the Wii U and the 3DS, I mean, could have their re-downloads go away in the next 2 or 3 years. Like, it might go 2023 March when everything shuts down in terms of being able to access the store and buy things, even with like a gift card from Nintendo. to like 2 years later, 2025, and you can't even like download your games, which I thought about that now after seeing what's going on with the Wii, where it just appears to have been stealth dropped. And I'm telling people to buy digital games on sale, and I'm like, oh, that might not be the best advice right this second. Now, I will say if we get an update around the situation, Nintendo basically has everything go back online. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe it was maintenance. It's just an accident. In that case, all right, we're good still. The re-download stuff hasn't been cut off, and I don't really have a lot of concerns necessarily around the Wii U and the 3DS having their own re-download restrictions or issues in a couple of years or something like that. So that's one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, is to pay attention, because this should have some sort of resolution. Go Nintendo are on it now, and I have a feeling other outlets are going to pick up with their own articles. Now, the other thing that it reminded me of was a question Nintendo had put out in a Q&A. This was the Q&A they did when they were shutting down the 3DS and the Wii U store. They had to break the news, and they had a ton of information that they had gathered and just threw on their website. Well, in there was a question that they actually removed. And it was a strange thing, but then I read the question and I said, yeah, that seems like someone slipped it in there who was really annoyed with all of the chatter going on on the internet, on Twitter or something, about Nintendo and preservation. This is the question they deleted. They asked, once it is no longer possible to purchase software in Nintendo eShop on Wii U and the 3DS family of systems, many classic games for past platforms will cease to be available for purchase anywhere. Will you make classic games available to own some other way? If not, then why? Does Nintendo have an obligation to preserve its classic games by continuing to make them available for purchase? Now, immediately they say across our Nintendo Switch Online membership plans, over 130 classic games are currently available in growing libraries for various legacy systems. So they basically just push you to the subscription service right away. They say we think it's an effective way to make classic content easily available to a broad range of players. Within these libraries, new and longtime players can not only find games they remember or have heard about, but other fun games they might not have thought to seek out otherwise. We currently have no plans to offer classic content in other ways. So I guess this question in general may have been a little too on the nose for Nintendo to drop in this Q&A, and they opted to remove it. It certainly stood out, though, because you can just see the length of this question compared to the others. Somebody was certainly beating up the keyboard typing this one out. I will say the interesting thing about this is these stores that we're talking about, while they feel old, the idea of a digital storefront for games with digital ownership is still relatively new in terms of a concept, right? It really came around with like the 360, the PS3, and the Wii. And now we're talking about the Wii potentially having its re-download system like restricted or cut off very quietly. So it's something to take in as well, because we saw Sony kind of do something with the PS3, but they were going to leave re-downloads up. That's one of the reasons I have to imagine this situation with the Wii right now is accidental or an error or a glitch, and it was like over the weekend, but we'll see, because I mean, not a lot of people really noticed. So maybe Nintendo's like, do we need those re-download servers set up right now? Because there's like 10 people online who mentioned it in the first place, but we'll see. Just keep an eye on this, because if they come back up, to me, it's like, okay, business as usual, the 3DS, Wii U, all that should be fine. But if they don't, and they stay down, Nintendo doesn't mention it at all, I gotta be honest, I'd be a little more wary about the 3DS and the Wii U when it comes to buying digital games, even if they get really cheap. But let me know what you guys think about this situation down below. And if you have a Wii, try this out and see if you can retrieve one of the games you've purchased in the past. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.